Hurry up. You can use this blanket.
The entire story of Death Note in 15 minutes. What if you could kill anyone in the world just by writing their name in a notebook? A brilliant high school student discovers this exact power and decides to become God. This is the story of Death Note, a psychological thriller where the hunter becomes the hunted, where genius battles genius, and where absolute power corrupts absolutely. Buckle up, because we're about to cover the entire insane story of Light Yagami and the detective who swore to stop him. The beginning of Kira. Light Yagami isn't your average teenager. He's a 17-year-old prodigy, scoring perfect marks on every national exam, admired by classmates, and destined for greatness. His father is the chief of the Japanese police, and Light himself seems bound for law enforcement or politics. But Light is bored. He sees the world as fundamentally broken, drowning in crime, corruption, and moral decay. The justice system fails. Criminals walk free on technicalities. Evil goes unpunished. Then one ordinary afternoon, something extraordinary happens. A black notebook falls from the sky and lands near his high school. The cover reads, Death Note. Inside, Light finds chilling instructions. Write someone's name while picturing their face, and they die of a heart attack within 40 seconds. You can specify the cause of death and control their actions before they die. Light dismisses it as an elaborate prank, but curiosity gets the better of him. He's watching the news when a story breaks about Kuro Otoharada, a middle-aged criminal holding hostages at a daycare. Light thinks, if this notebook is real, then this man deserves to test it. He writes the name. 40 seconds later, the broadcast cuts to chaos. The criminal collapses. Dead. Heart attack. Light's hands tremble. His heart races. What has he done? That night, he can barely sleep. He tells himself it was coincidence, but he needs to know for sure. The next day, he spots a man assaulting a woman in an alley. Light remembers reading about this man, an acquitted criminal named Takuo Shibuimaru. He writes the name while watching from the shadows. The man drops dead instantly. Light's shock gives way to something else, exhilaration. This is real, and it's terrifying, but something stirs inside him, purpose. That night, a monstrous figure appears in his room. Meet Ryuk, a Shinigami, a god of death. With a grotesque grin stretching across his reptilian face, Ryuk explains he dropped the notebook into the human world because he was bored. The Shinigami realm is monotonous, and humans are so much more entertaining. He loves apples from the human world, by the way. They're like cigarettes to him, totally addictive, better than anything in his realm. Ryuk isn't here to guide Light or judge him, he's here to watch. And boy, is he about to get one hell of a show. Light's initial hesitation evaporates. If he possesses the ultimate power, shouldn't he use it to cleanse the world? He begins systematically eliminating criminals, murderers, rapists, traffickers, terrorists. He hacks into his father's police computer without leaving a trace, accessing criminal databases from around the world. News networks worldwide report the phenomenon. Criminals are dropping dead from heart attacks at an unprecedented rate. The public coins a name for this mysterious force, Kira, derived from the English word killer. Enter L, the world's greatest detective. But Kira's killing spree attracts someone even more brilliant. L, the world's greatest detective. No one knows L's real name or face. He operates in complete anonymity, solving cases governments can't crack, from international terrorism to serial killers. His success rate is 100%, and L has a theory. Kira is in Japan, specifically the Kanto region. To test this, L does something audacious. He broadcasts a message on Japanese television using a death row inmate named Lind L. Taylor, who claims to be L and calls Kira evil, challenging him to try killing him. Light takes the bait and kills him instantly, not knowing it's a decoy. The real L, watching from his command center surrounded by computer screens, narrows Kira's location to the Kanto region of Japan and confirms several crucial facts. Kira needs a name and face to kill. He can control the time of death, and he's emotionally reactive, willing to kill on impulse to protect his ego. The game is on. L deduces something else. Criminals are dying during after-school hours, particularly between 4 and midnight. Kira might be a student. Light, watching this unfold on his computer, realizes he's made a mistake. He immediately begins killing criminals at random intervals, including 1-hour increments during school hours, trying to disprove L's theory. But this only reveals something else to L. Kira has access to police information. But here's the problem. Rei's fiancée, Naomi Masora, is a former FBI agent herself, and she's brilliant. She begins investigating independently and gets dangerously close to identifying Light as Kira. She deduces the subway connection and heads to police headquarters. In one of the series' darkest moments, Light intercepts her, pretends to be part of the task force, and tricks her into revealing her real name by using a fake alias. He writes her name in the death note with instructions to commit suicide in a location where her body will never be found. Naomi walks away, her fate sealed, and Light crosses a line from which he can never return. The mind games intensify. L knows someone in Ray's investigation group killed those FBI agents. He narrows it down to dozens of suspects, but he suspects Light almost immediately. Something about him is too perfect, too calculated. So L does something insane. He enrolls at Light's university under the alias Hideki Ruga and befriends him. The two engage in psychological warfare, disguised as friendship, playing tennis while plotting each other's deaths, sharing meals while analyzing every word for hidden meaning. It's chess at the highest level, where one wrong move means death. L tests Light constantly with verbal traps. Light responds with perfect answers. Too perfect, L notes. But nothing can shake L's intuition. He's 95% certain Light is Kira. He just can't prove it. Then everything changes. A second Kira emerges, Misa Amane. The second Kira, her name is Misa Amane, a pop idol and model with a tragic past. A year earlier, a burglar murdered her parents right in front of her. She watched Kira kill that criminal on television and became obsessed with him, seeing him as her savior. When a Shinigami named Rem gives her a second death note, Misa makes a deal. She trades half her remaining lifespan for the Shinigami Eyes, a power that lets her see anyone's name and remaining lifespan just by looking at their face. It's the ultimate weapon, but at a devastating cost. She goes from having decades left to mere years. Misa uses this power to find Kira. She discovers Light's identity, because Death Note users can't see each other's lifespans. She spots Light in a crowd and realizes his lifespan is invisible. She tracks him down, declares her undying love, and pledges to become his eyes. Light sees her as a tool, nothing more. Rem, Misa's protective Shinigami, sees right through Light and warns him, "Hurt Misa, and you die." Misa begins operating as the second Kira, sending messages and making demands that attract L's attention. L captures Misa on suspicion of being the second Kira and confines her, torturing her with isolation and interrogation. Light knows L will eventually break her, so he makes a shocking decision. He voluntarily asks to be imprisoned and gives up the Death Note, which erases his memories of being Kira. For weeks, Light genuinely believes he's innocent. The Yotsuba arc, Light's masterpiece. Light had planned this perfectly. Before surrendering the notebook, he instructed Rem to give it to someone greedy and selfish. That person turns out to be Kyosuke Higuchi, an executive at the Yotsuba Corporation. Higuchi uses the Death Note to eliminate business rivals and competitors, becoming the third Kira and attracting L's investigation. With Light and Misa's memories erased, L focuses entirely on Higuchi. Working together, memoryless Light and L, they devise a trap to capture Higuchi during a highway chase. When they retrieve the Death Note from his car, Light touches it. Instantly, every memory floods back. In a fraction of a second, Light Yagami, the true Kira, returns. Using a scrap of Death Note paper hidden in his watch, he kills Higuchi before anyone realizes what happened. It's L's final test, his last chance to hear Light confess. Light responds with his characteristic smile. "Where's this coming from, Ryuzaki? I do admit I stretched the truth here and there." L replies softly, "I had a feeling you'd say something like that." He knows. He's always known, but he can't prove it, and now he's out of time. L collapses, and Light catches him, feigning concern while internally celebrating. With his final breath, L realizes he was right all along. Light was always Kira, but there's no one left to tell. Light silently declares himself the god of the new world. The first act ends with evil triumphant, justice dead in Light's arms. 4 years later, a new game, Time Jump. Light is now 22 years old and has achieved his dream. He's the head of Japan's Kira Investigation Task Force, essentially investigating himself, and operates as Kira without opposition. Global crime has dropped 70%. Wars have ceased. Prisons are empty. Kira's world is becoming reality. Light even works with governments secretly, eliminating threats to world peace. He's become the god he always believed himself to be. But L had a contingency plan. 2 successors, both raised in Wami's house, an orphanage for gifted children in Winchester, England, designed to produce the next L, Nier and Mello. Nier is calculating, methodical, and eerily similar to L, often seen playing with toys and puzzles while solving impossible cases. Mello is emotional, aggressive, and willing to use any means necessary, including violence. L had hoped they'd work together to surpass him. Instead, rivalry drives them apart, and this becomes Light's greatest challenge. When they learn of L's death, Roger, the orphanage manager, asks them to work together. Near accepts. Mello refuses, furious that he's always been second to Near despite trying harder. He storms out and eventually joins the Italian mafia, determined to catch Kira his own way. Mello kidnaps Light's younger sister Sayu, demanding the Death Note in exchange. Light's father, Soichiro, has no choice but to comply. The notebook is launched across the Pacific Ocean on a missile trajectory, retrieved by Mello's gang. Light loses control of the notebook, and worse, Sayu returns traumatized, her memories damaged, unable to even recognize her family. Meanwhile, Nier establishes the SPK, Special Provision for Kira, and begins his investigation from America, methodically narrowing suspects just as L did. Both Nier and Mello are brilliant, but they approach the problem differently. Mello uses brute force, Nier uses deduction. Together, though they don't realize it, they're recreating L's investigative prowess, becoming what L had always envisioned, a successor that surpasses him. Light recruits new allies to replace those he's lost. Teru Mikami, a fanatical prosecutor who worships Kira and calls him God, believes criminals deserve deletion from society. The final confrontation. Mello kidnaps Takada during a public appearance. Light, unable to let her reveal his identity under interrogation, uses a hidden scrap of Death Note to order Takada to kill Mello using a page he'd given her, then to burn herself alive along with all evidence. Mello dies, but his sacrifice gives Nier the final piece of the puzzle. Mikami's pattern of behavior changes after Takada's death, revealing his connection to Kira. Nier calls for a meeting. Yellow Box Warehouse on Daikoku Wharf, January 28th. Light agrees, confident in his plan. He's instructed Mikami to bring a fake Death Note to the warehouse, while hiding the real one in a bank safety deposit box. When Nier inevitably tries to expose them, Mikami will use the real notebook to kill everyone except Light. It's foolproof. Light has won. The day arrives. Light enters the warehouse surrounded by the Japanese task force. Nier and the SPK wait inside. Nier playing with action figures on the floor as usual. The atmosphere is tense. Nier accuses Light and Mikami of being Kira. Light smirks. He's won. He signals Mikami, who dramatically enters, declaring everyone will die and begins writing names in the notebook. 1 minute passes, nothing happens. 2 minutes, nothing. Matsuda, a task force member who once idolized Light, sees him reach for it and shoots him repeatedly, screaming in anguish and betrayal. Light's perfect plan crumbles. Blood spreads across his white shirt. Light staggers from the warehouse, bleeding, defeated, crawling toward the exit. He begs Ryuk to save him, to write Nier's name, to help him escape. But Ryuk reminds Light of something they discussed years ago on that first night. When it's all over, when the entertainment ends, Ryuk will be the one to write Light's name. It was always going to end this way. The contract is complete. As Light collapses on a staircase outside, Ryuk writes his name. Light's eyes widen. His entire life flashes before him. The day he found the notebook, his first kill, meeting L, the mind games, his proclamation as God, L's death, his sister's kidnapping, standing in the rain, everything. All of it ending here, alone, bleeding out on cold metal stairs, no different from any criminal he'd killed. Light Yagami dies, believing he was justice. His body goes limp, and the screen shows us what happens after death for Death Note users. Nothing. No heaven, no hell, just nothing. The world believes Kira has been defeated. Crime begins to rise again. Nier stands as the victor, the new L. But the question lingers. In a world drowning in evil, was Light wrong to try to save it? Or did his method, judge, jury, and executioner, make him the very evil he sought to destroy? So what do you think? Death Note asks the ultimate question. If you had the power to kill anyone, would you use it? Would you become a god? Or would you become a monster? If this story gripped you like it gripped millions worldwide, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me, Team Light or Team L.